Hi, hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we are discussing the most important topic in biology, that is digestion or the nutrition in human beings. So digestion is a process that breakdown of the complex biological molecules into a component of their parts. So here the lipids changes into fatty acids and the proteins are breakdown into the amino acids and the carbohydrates into simple sugars. So the digestive system which prepares the food for use by all the body cells. The main functions of the digestive system are which digesting the food. Here the physical and chemical breakdown of the food occurs. The large food converts into a small molecules, that is glucose from carbohydrates, triglycerides from the fatty acids and the amino acids from the proteins. So second one is absorbing the nutrients. Absorbing nutrients occurs in the intestines. Intestines are helpful for absorbing the nutrients. The absorbed nutrients are circulated through the body by cardiovascular system. Then eliminating the waste. Any food that cannot be digested or absorbed is expelled as a waste in anus. So the digestion occurs in mechanical. The mechanical means which changes the physical form of the food by chewing, tearing, grinding, mashing and the mixing. And the digestion which occurs in the chemical form also. In the chemical form, which changes the chemical composition of the food with the aid of the digestive enzymes. And the digestive enzymes are special proteins that help to break up large molecules of food into a very small molecules that can be absorbed and used by the cells in the form of the nutrition. Two groups of organs that compose the digestive system. The first one is the gastrointestinal tract or the GI tract, or alimentary canal. Alimentary canal which continues a tube that extends from the mouth to the anus through the thoracic or abdominopelvic cavities. The organs include the mouth and the pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small intestine and the large intestine. So length of the GI tract is about 5 to 7 meters in a living person. And the second group is accessory digestive organs, which including the teeth, tongue, salivary glands, liver, gallbladder and the pancreas. So teeth helps in the physical breakdown of the food and tongue assists in chewing and swallowing. So salivary glands, liver, gallbladder, pancreas produce or store secretions that flow into the GI tract through the ducts. So the alimentary canal is basically a long tube that extending from the mouth to the anus. And in the figure we can see that the tube has different parts. So various regions are specialized to the performing a various functions. So what happens to the food once it enters our body, we shall discuss in this process here. Specialized regions where digestion takes place. First one is food that processing begins in the mouth. In the mouth, the food is broken down mechanically by chewing and saliva containing the enzymes and begins the breakdown of the carbohydrates. Then it goes to the esophagus. Here there is a muscular tube that moves food from the mouth to the stomach through the rhythmic contractions called the peristalsis. Then it goes to the stomach. In the stomach, the digestive juices that including the acids and the enzymes which break down the food further. Then the stomach's muscular walls that churn and mix the food into a semi-liquid form called a chyme. So then it goes into the small intestine. Here the divided into three parts. The small intestine is where most digestion and absorption occurs here. Villi and microvilli increase the surface area for the nutrient absorption. Then in the large intestine, the large intestine absorbs water and electrolytes from the undigested food and forming a fecus. Houses that beneficial bacteria that aid in fermentation and produce the vitamins. So waste is eliminated through the anus. So each part of the digestive system plays a crucial role in the processing food and essential by their functions. Mouth, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine and the anus. How the digestive system works? By ingesting the food. Ingesting means that taking a food into our mouth, then secretion occurs, that releasing of the water, acid buffers and some enzymes into the lumen of GIT. Then mixing and propulsion, the churning and propulsion of the food into GI tract. Then digestion, the digestion occurs in mechanical and the chemical breakdown of the food. Then absorption occurs, the absorption in the small intestines. So the passage of digested products from GIT into blood and the lymph. Then the defecation, defecation means elimination, elimination of the feces from GI tract. Human digestive system, the process of reducing the food into a smaller form that can be absorbed into the body. The digestive system consists of two major parts, the major organs and the accessory organs. Under the major organs, mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine and the large intestine comes, and in the accessory organs, the liver, gallbladder and the pancreas occurs. Major organs. The first one is mouth, the first part of the digestive system. The mouth is the entry point of the food. The structures in the mouth that aids the digestion. In the mouth, the teeth and the salivary glands occurs, and the teeth helps to the cut, tearing and grind the food, and the salivary glands which produce and secretes the saliva into the oral cavity. So saliva, saliva moistens the food which contains the enzymes, that is the tannin and the salivary amylase, which begins the digestion of the starch into a smaller polysaccharides. Those functions of the mouth is mechanical digestion. Here the mechanical digestion occurs, and which increasing the surface area for faster chemical digestion. Next, the mouth, the esophagus is present. Esophagus is a connecting tube between the mouth to the stomach and that running through the thoracic cavity. That location where it is present, it lies behind the windpipe, that is a trachea. The trachea has an epiglottis which helps to preventing the food from entering the windpipe, moving the food to the esophagus while swallowing. In the diagram, we observe the movement, that is a peristaltic movement. So the food travels down the esophagus through a series of involuntary rhythmic contractions or the wave-like contractions. This is called a peristalsis or the peristaltic movement. And the functions is the lining of the esophagus secretes the mucus, and which helps in the lubricating and to support the movement of the food. In the figure, we see a bolus movement. The bolus is nothing but the tongue mixes and rolls the food into a tiny mashed up bites. That is called a bolus. That pushes the bolus towards the pharynx into the esophagus when we swallowing. So the movement of bolus in this esophagus looks like a wave-like structure. The contractions, so that is called a peristalsis movement. Then the bolus which reaches the stomach, that must pass through a muscular ringed valve called the esophageal sphincter or the cardiac sphincter. The function of the esophageal sphincter is which prevent the stomach acids from backflowing into the esophagus. Then it comes to the stomach. The stomach is a J-shaped muscular sac which has a inner foldings called raphe that increasing the surface area of the stomach. The function is the stomach performs the mechanical digestion by churning the bolus and mixing it with the gastric juices that secreted by the lining of the stomach. The gastric juices or HCl, that is hydrochloric acid, salts, enzymes and the water and the mucus, and HCl helps to break down of the food and kills the bacteria that came along with the food. So the bolus is now called the chyme. The enzymes in the stomach which wants the acidic environment. So in the HCl secretions, the HCl which kill any microbes that are found in the bolus, creating a pH of 2, that is acidic, and the mucus that prevents the stomach from digesting itself. So the in the pepsin secretion which responsible for the initiating the breakdown of the proteins in the food. So hydrolyzes the proteins to yield the polypeptides. pH is 2. The enzyme from the salivary glands stop the breaking down of the carbohydrates. In the stomach, the food goes into the small intestine from pyloric sphincter. The pyloric sphincter is muscular ringed sphincter which chyme moves from the stomach into the small intestine. I told no that stomach helps to the digestion of the food, but the stomach does not digest itself. Why? It has a protective mechanism. The three protective mechanisms they are: the first one is the stomach only secretes the small amounts of the gastric juices until the food is present. After the food comes, it secretes a more amount of the gastric juices. The second one is the secretion of the mucus coat, that lining of the stomach, protecting it from the gastric juices. And the third mechanism is the digestive enzymes, that is a pepsin is secreted in an inactive protein called a pepsinogen. So the pepsinogen is converted into pepsin in the increased presence of HCl. In the small intestine, which is responsible for the complete digestion of all the macromolecules and the absorption of their complete molecules and the nutrients. For example, glucose, glycerol, fatty acids, amino acids, nucleotides, these are absorbed by the small intestine. The parts of the small intestine. The small intestine is made up of the three parts. The first one is duodenum, jejunum and the ileum. Duodenum. The first part is the duodenum, that is U-shaped organ. It's approximately 30 cm in the length. This area completes most of the digestion process here. So the enzymes are secreted into the duodenum from the pancreas and the gallbladder. So the duodenum is lined by the folds of tissues called the villi, and the villi are covered by a fine brush-like microvilli. These foldings which helps in the increase the surface area of the small intestine to increase the rate of the absorption of the nutrients. The second part of the small intestine is jejunum. The jejunum is approximately 2.5 meter in length. Although some digestion is completed here, it also having the villi and microvilli. For its role is absorption of the nutrients. So the third part is ileum. So the ileum is approximately 3 meter in the length and has fewer villi and microvilli than the other two parts. So although absorption also occurs here, it is responsible for pushing the waste materials into the large intestine. Here is a picture of the digestive system, that is esophagus, stomach, in the small intestine, duodenum, jejunum and the ileum, and in the large intestine the colon, rectum and the anus. The functions of the small intestine, that 90% of the digestion and absorption of the food occurs here, and others 10% taking place in the stomach and the large intestine. And the main function of the small intestine is absorption of the nutrients and minerals from the food. So digestion of the proteins. The proteins, peptides and the amino acids are acted upon by the enzymes such as trypsin and chymotrypsin. Trypsin and chymotrypsin are acted on peptides and the amino acids, and this breaks them down to smaller particles. Trypsin and the chymotrypsin are secreted by the pancreas. Then the digestion of lipids. The enzymes like lipases that secreted from the pancreas, which acts upon fats and lipids in the diet. So lipase can break them into the smaller parts that can enter the intestinal villi for the absorption. So then digestion of carbohydrates. The carbohydrates are broken down into simple sugars and the monosaccharides like the glucose. The pancreatic amylase that breaks down some carbohydrates to oligosaccharides as well. So here proteins digestion occurs by the enzymes trypsin and chymotrypsin, and lipids by the enzymes, that is lipases. The carbohydrates by the pancreatic amylase. Absorption in the small intestine. The absorbed substance in the small intestines that include water, that is 80% is absorbed by the small intestine and 10% by large intestine, and the remaining 10% excreted in the fecus. So absorbing water, electrolytes, vitamins and the minerals by the small intestine. Now let me learn about the large intestine, their parts and their functions. The components of the large intestine. The large intestine is composed of several very distinctive parts, that is cecum, colon and the rectum. And in the colon, that consists of four parts, that is ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon and the sigmoid colon. The first part is cecum, that is it is the first part of our large intestine, which looks like a pouch, which size in 2 inches long, and its function is which taking in digested liquid from the ileum. Ileum is a one of the part of the small intestine and passes it on to the colon. So the colon is a major section of the large intestine. The function of the colon is the principle that place of water reabsorption and absorbs salts where needed. So the components is 4 parts, that is ascending, transverse, descending and the sigmoid colon. In the ascending colon, that is the first portion of the colon that pushes any undigested debris or food up from the cecum. So just under the right lower end of the liver. Then transverse colon, that is the second portion of the colon, that food traveling from left to right just under our stomach. Descending colon, that is the third portion of the colon. Here the food pushes its contents from down to the lower left side of your abdomen. And the sigmoid colon is the final, that is S-shaped length of the colon that empties into the rectum. The rectum is the final section which measures from 1 to 1.6 inches, that leftover waste that collects there. Here the expanding the rectum and emptied through the anus. Function of the large intestine. The first one is absorb water. So one of the primary functions is to absorption of the water. So here they prepare the waste as a solid stool that will be expelled from the body. Then the absorb vitamins. So rarely in breaking down undigested sugars and fibers into the fatty acids and produce the many vitamins of which are vitamin K and biotin that are absorbed back into the body. Third function is reduce acidity. The fatty acids that cause the acidic environment, and the LI, that is large intestine, which produces alkaline solutions. So the reduce the acidity and balance the pH in the large intestine. And fourth one is which protect from the infections. The mucous lining of the large intestine acts as a protective layer which prevents the harmful bacteria from being reabsorbed into the body. Fifth function is which produce the antibodies. Also produce the antibodies which helps to boost the immunity. And it is believed that the appendix may have been a major producer of the antibodies at some point in the evolutionary process. The accessory organs. These organs are support the digestive system but are not the part of the digestive tract. So these organs that secrete fluids into the digestive tract and are connected by the ducts. The accessory organs that include a liver, gallbladder and the pancreas. Liver is the largest of these organs which weight about 1.5 kg, and liver produces a bile. So the bile is a greenish yellow pigment that made up of bile pigments and the bile salts. It breaks down the old red blood cells. I told no that RBC are destroyed in the liver. Here the bile helps to break down the RBC cells. Then the second one is gallbladder. It is a storage sac. The bile is secreted into it and the bile is stored here. Then how it works? The food containing fat enters the digestive tract and the salts that are secreted into the small intestine to digest the fat. So the bile emulsifies the fat in partly digested food, so thereby assisting their absorption. Pancreas. The pancreas secretes a number of different enzymes into the small intestine. That role is to digest the carbohydrates, lipids and the proteins completely. So it also secretes the bicarbonate ions. So the function is which neutralize the HCl, that is hydrochloric acid, from the stomach, that change the pH of the small intestine to a pH of 8. So the pancreas will secrete about 1 liter of pancreatic fluids per day. So this is the summary of organs of the digestive system and their functions. I hope you understand all these points. The organ, the tongue and the salivary glands, teeth, pancreas, liver, gallbladder, mouth, and their functions, and the pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, and their functions. This is total summary of the digestive system. I hope you all understand, and thank you. Please like, share and subscribe my channel for more videos. Thank you.